Marta, thanks very much for joining us. You've just published your 2020 report called The Human Face of Coworking, particularly looking at, I suppose, the tenants in terms of co-working. What were some of the key findings?
We were focusing, of course, on a Polish face of coworkings, but we were comparing it to the worldwide movement. And generally, there are a few things that really are changing in Poland and not only in Poland. First of all, it's quite interesting that the majority of coworking users are females. It's not like huge a majority, it's like 56 or 57%, but still makes it quite interesting because if you ask coworking managers, they assume that the majority of their clients are men, and which is not true. There are a few reasons probably why it is like this, because unfortunately, the women working in coworkings, they are not solo entrepreneurs or team leaders, they are team members. So probably the decisions about being in coworking is being made by men. But then their employees are women. So this is one of the quite interesting things. The other one is that the number of freelancers is decreasing. In Poland, it's only about 15% of members are freelancers. Over 80% are small teams or big teams or team members. It shows that really the core of the coworking is a flexibility provided to small teams and small companies or satellite parts of the big companies. And the third, I think, quite interesting thing from Polish point of view, and from my point of view, is that Polish coworkers are starting to become much more European and American. What I mean is, when we a few years ago asked coworkers why they are using those places, they said it's about prestige and location. Right now, it's still very important, but the most important factor is the community and the psychological parts of this decision, which means that it was always like this, that coworkings were really created to make a community feeling, to feel less lonely, to meet interesting people, to make connections. And it's starting to look like this in Poland too. Startups are using coworkings, but in our survey, huge majority of companies using coworkings are 6 years or older. It's showing that they are not scale-ups, looking for investments. They are just operating businesses, doing lots of stuff, not necessarily being considered as startups.
That's really interesting, Marta. And does that suggest anything in terms of the real estate side, looking at that as I guess a function of demand?
I think so. I think that we see it, of course, during the COVID times even more, that this flexibility and this possibility to grow in a quite flexible and quite easy way is one of the most important things. And what I mean flexibility, because when we think flexibility, probably we think about cutting contracts or leaving the space. And it really didn't happen, at least in 2004. Generally, companies stay here. They still pay their rents. They just want to be sure that whatever happens, it's not like they are fixed in some kind of one-way street. They can get few rooms more, give few rooms back. And this flexible office is combined to their flexible businesses. The other demand we also can see is that the office is much more than the office. It's not about making the workstation. They want to be among people, and they want to feel, much more work focused, not working at home, for example. So generally, coworkings are the proof that office is much more than the office.
Great, really interesting to catch up. Great report. Really enjoyed reading that. Thanks very much for joining us, Marta.
Thank you very, very much.